This is Raw of Earth, and you are listening to Airey Bros Radio. That look and that impression doesn't add to what I'm doing. It's just so convenient to get the best, though, and that's what I value now. It was a realization that I didn't know myself beyond being an athlete, and it was a quest of curiosity. I just released Skilful Psyche, which is kind of like CrossFit, but with psychological exercises. You actually get exposed more to the chemicals in the water by taking a hot shower in unfiltered water than you do by drinking that same water. I'm just not a fan of any shampoo or conditioner. I might have to design one. Breath work and Kundalini yoga or Kriya yoga made it so that cannabis was completely unappealing to me. Cannabis felt like I was coming down from the highs that I would feel after doing Kriyas.
So I must say, to start this all off, man, you have had a huge impact. I won't speak for Rich, I'll speak for myself, but our conversations we have had have started those ripples in my life. And I just want to thank you for all that. But now I go back and I listen to some of those podcasts and I have questions off of what we've talked about. Because now it's like, okay, I did that. Now where do I go from here? And I kind of think that you've kind of done that in your life, because I feel like at points when we've talked to you, you were super into I believe you called it professional natural living. And you were doing all the 5 elements every day. And now I think you might be more into, doing some other things. So I want to kind of see how you transition from, harnessing all your earth powers and earth energies and using that to be an actual human in in this matrix we live in. Because I'm having problems right now reintegrating stuff.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's all just a vortex. We're going around and around in different scenarios, but then we go through them again. And what we learned the last time through, we get to integrate into this time through. And I think a lot of people, when they go through a circumstance for the first time, let's say the career life, when you go through being in a career, you get consumed with that character, and maybe I'm going to put this down. Maybe you get, you analyze things about money because you're making money for the first time in your life. And eventually some people get sick of that. I got sick of that. And I went to explore into another realm of life, another aspect of life. And I discovered what it was like to connect with nature and to not have money. And to also, I shed my physical, what I knew as myself, my muscular athletic body. I just decided to shift away from that, and I started exploring parts of myself that I never explored before. And now, once I developed that part of me, I swing back into like you said, being a contributing member of society, and back into the business role. And I have the advantage of experiencing just chilling underneath waterfalls, not having to worry about making money. I've had the experience of doing that for a few years, that now this time through the other, the 3D type reality, I've got a little bit more context. And who knows, where I'm at in this spiral, but eventually you get to the top, right? If you imagine this is like a pyramid, eventually you get to the top and you've seen all the different perspectives of all the different scenarios. And that's where that all-seeing eye comes from. That's your wisdom at the end of life. So I kind of know what you're talking about. I think just the more that we go through it, the more wisdom we have to be able to integrate all the different aspects of ourselves. But as the first time we're going through learning different aspects of ourselves, it's really hard to integrate because we're trying to learn this scenario. And that's the exciting part of life. I don't know if any of that made sense, but I think I know the question you're asking, and I tried to answer it.
No, it made sense. And Rich, I want to let you get a word in here, but I think kind of going off of that, and you mentioning coming back into the 3D of things after maybe living in the 5D realms of things. And the first time you were on here, we talked a lot about sun gazing, and the protocol. And, once you reach that 45 minutes, that's when you're kind of done, right? So my question for you is, obviously you've probably gotten to there. I'm kind of getting to that point. What
Nice.
does that look like for you after? Do you still get up with the sun? Do you still go sun gaze? Because I don't see not doing it at this point in my life. Like, it's like, okay, it might not be good for me to look at it past a certain point, but I really enjoy sunrise and sunset.
Yeah, I never really stopped, but it took me a year and a half to 2 years to work up to, increasing 10 seconds at a time, work up to 44 minutes. And I definitely didn't stop. Like once I hit, the exact, it's either 44 or 45 minutes. I forget where the end is. But once I hit that, I was already in a routine of always being able to look at sunset or sunrise. Obviously, it took me that long because I didn't always make it out, right? And then there was clouds out a lot of the times as well. But I was able to, go more than 50% of the days I was looking at the sunset or sunrise. Now it's not so important. What's important after you do that protocol, the HRM method, that you grounding becomes more important, and that's what's keeping the charge in your body. So that method says that we should be grounding for 45 minutes 3 times a week, I believe, for the rest of your life, and that the benefit of your sun gazing will stay within your body as long as you're grounding with the earth 3 times a week for 45 minutes. So that has become, almost a ritual. Getting out in the sun during the day is a ritual. Being on the earth is a ritual, like something that I do, like I eat. But sun gazing, it used to be, and now it's not so much. But like I had a house at the top of the Laguna Beach Hills for the purpose of watching the sunset over the ocean. And our house now, we moved back to Brentwood, so we're back in Los Angeles. Our house now, I don't have a view of sunrise like coming off the horizon because we're in the mountains. But I made sure when I was looking at houses that either sunset or sunrise was visible from our actual house. So it's definitely a practice that I still do. It's just not something that I make myself do every single day, even when it's not convenient.
So first off, congratulations. You're now a married man. You're off the market. Congratulations on that. I know it's been a minute since we last talked, and you talked about you guys had been engaged, but since then we've seen you get married and do all that. So I want to start off by saying congratulations on that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's crazy how that happened so quickly. I mean, I just went from, in a matter of years, just completely switching my mindset on that, like the married thing. But I'm 40 now, so I'm super happy to be married.
Right on, right on. And also, I think it's been really fascinating to watch you from afar, from the early days of CrossFit, and the viral video of you pushing a judge at the OC throwdown to doing acrobatics at the beach, and following all that stuff, and getting to engage with you and stuff, and also seeing you do like just scoops of protein powders and creatine and stuff like that to now. So I guess what I wanted to get into, you mentioned, in that first question, talking about kind of separating from your identity as an athlete and your kind of muscular identity. And that's always something that I still kind of struggle with. And I'm 46. How did you do that? I guess because I struggle with it. I feel like I'm at that point where I kind of need to separate from the athlete and the ultra marathoner and just get into something else.
Yeah, it was a realization that I didn't know myself beyond being an athlete, and it was a quest of curiosity, essentially. I started playing hockey when I was 3 years old, and then I went, 20 years of hockey, moved to California, and straight into full-time / professional CrossFit athlete for another 10-ish years. And then I'm 35 years old and I'm having a conversation with my buddy, and I realized that like my entire identity relies on my athleticism. And I think I realized it because I was already downshifting out of CrossFit, and I could see the new athletes coming into my gym. This is the first time I'm realizing why I even question it. But I remember back then that I was seeing new people coming into my gym completely obsessed with their placement in CrossFit. That was what they identified with. That's what they measured themselves against, is how good they were at CrossFit. And I could see that there was a little bit, I was a couple steps out of that. But I remember just thinking like, I actually like, that's all I've known. My performance in hockey, my performance in CrossFit was more important than work performance, social performance, school performance. And so I started realizing there was already like a wedge in there. And I just was like, I wonder what I would be like not being the fittest person in every single room that I walk into. And that's when I purposely quit eating protein, and I stopped cutting my hair, stopped cutting my face, and I just went on an experiment. And that's what led me to, I even got to the point where I was like, what happens if I quit making money? Am I still going to be able to live a luxurious lifestyle? Obviously, logically, you think no, but according to my gnosis of kind of how reality is a little bit more fluid than we're led to believe and how we're taught, I was like, is it possible to just manifest the quality food that I've been eating that costs thousands of dollars a month, the amazing housing conditions that I've been able to put myself in being a business owner, the amount of girls that are attracted to me, will they still be there without the body, without the money, without the house, without the responsibility of being a business owner? Like, are these things dependent on this character, or can I be somebody else? And what does that all look like? So it was a question of curiosity to figure that out. And I mean, I was not young, but I was single-ish and you know, able to do that, able to take risks. So that was my journey through it, and that's how it started. And I discovered so much about myself that I highly recommend it, at least to a certain degree, to anybody. You can always go back to what you were for the last 40 years. Even if you take a vacation for 2 to 3 years, you can always go back.
Since then you've shaved. So what was the onus of
So then I got attached, not attached, but then I realized that, so the shaving thing, I've only shaved once and it's growing back a little bit, but I only shaved like 2 weeks ago. And it was getting to the point where I was going places and people were offering me like $15 an hour jobs, like without me asking for work. And I do pretty well. I do really well financially. And so the fact that I was showing up places and people were looking at me as like kind of like a homeless person that needs, like I was getting offered jobs to like, anyways, I was just getting offered jobs for like minimum wage by like strangers, and these people even followed me on Instagram, so it doesn't make sense that I was just getting offered sometimes from strangers. But the point is that in my profession, both as a influencer and in my network marketing organization and in my sort of coaching services, that look and that impression doesn't add to what I'm doing and the message that I'm wanting people to get from me, and even just the image that I'm trying to project. And so the face stuff started to, I realized, because I went and did a presentation for one of our brand partners with Purium in Kansas. They didn't really know me. The people in the room didn't know me. And I was just realizing that all these people are looking at me the same way that these other people that said, like, hey, do you want a $15 an hour job? When I'm trying to talk to them about making, you know, 5 figures, millions of dollars, I'm talking to them about doing business with us where it's around money. I need to look a certain way. So that was one thing. And then I didn't want to do it because I was thinking this was part of the brand, the identity, another identity. It was like two different edges, because I was like, well, this is kind of like my identity and my brand. And as soon as I thought that, like, I could see that there was a little bit of attachment to it, I just decided to cut it off. And again, just see what happens. These are long questions to simple, or these are long answers.
That's why we had you on. Does that mean there's a haircut coming, or?
So that has entered my mind, and the face entered my mind a few times over a couple months before I actually did it. The hair, I'm not sure. I mean, I definitely feel like it's an appendage to me, at least right now. It feels like a part of me. I feel like I'd be losing a part of me if I cut it. But again, I mean, I've purposely went into scenarios where that was the whole reason why I was doing it, was to chop off a part of me and then see what grows in place of it. So I think that actually might have just stirred a whole bunch of stuff up.
We need you on Team Longhair, dog. You're my guiding force, bro. You're who I look to, man. We need you. We need those beautiful locks, dude. Like you're my goal. Like that's why I still have mine. And you know, don't get me wrong, I think about it too. But I have a date in mind, from mine. But yeah, I think if you need that nudge, don't go, bro. We need you. We need those locks, dog. Your hair is beautiful. And I think that's something that really doesn't get talked about as, you know, a male, right? No one really teaches you how to grow your hair long and have luscious locks as a male, right? But you've obviously done a really good job of it. So maybe kind of go into some of those details that, you know, what do you do for your hair? Because I know you've put up some crazy videos of different ways to nourish your hair and stuff. What are you putting in your hair? How many times a week are you washing it? You never trim it, right?
No, I have never cut it in 6 years. And man, like, I don't have a shampoo or conditioner or a hair routine that I'm like, that I can stand by. I'm not a super fan of anything. They all kind of have a little bit of issues. I've mostly only tried natural type shampoos, or I didn't shampoo at all or condition at all when my hair was short. So if you're a guy that has short hair, it's mostly not necessary. I never did it until it like got below my shoulders. And I really, because I feel like as my hair got longer, it's really thick. Oil gets, like, the oil that comes off my scalp gets stuck in there because my hair is so long. And so I'm just not a fan of any shampoo or conditioner. Like, I might have to design one. So I don't have an answer, and everyone always asks me about that. The one thing that I do know is helping my hair grow is the superfoods I take from Purium. It's super, super cheap. It's called Renew Hair, Skin, and Nails. And that's got herbs to grow my hair. So my hair right now is below my butt cheeks. And when I don't take it, so I've stopped taking it before and it doesn't grow, and then I start taking it again and then it grows. So maybe my hair is abnormally long. I'm not sure if it would grow this long or if it's going to stop. Like it kind of felt like my face stopped after a while. But yeah, I don't really have any answers to the hair. I don't do a single thing to it except for try to brush it to keep the knots out. And even that's annoying to me because I feel like I'm breaking it because I don't brush it enough. So I guess the only thing that I can do that I can say is that get a detangler brush, because that's one thing that really helped me is get a detangler brush. And then I have like a bamboo brush that's got bristles made of bamboo, so it's really stiff. So first I go through with the detangler, and then I take the I don't know, I got it at the health food store. It's like a bamboo brush, and then that like scrapes my scalp. And so I like, number one, I like the way that feels. And then also the detangler brush is plastic. And so it actually like kind of adds static electricity to your hair. And the wood will take out, it'll neutralize the static electricity in your hair, which is important if you have hair, because hair is essentially like wires that go into the nervous system. So you want to get all of that out, at least at the end of the night. I tried in the beginning, I wasn't washing my hair in hot water. That's something, if somebody has some fragile hair, you can try to not wash it in hot water. I was taking cold showers. But if that's too bothersome for you, what you can do is just wash your hair in a sink and then have the water like lukewarm in a sink. And then that way you don't have to have cool water on your body. If you can't handle doing it in the shower, you can just wash your hair in the kitchen sink, and it actually makes it just a little bit easier to wash your hair. And for flakes and stuff, if anybody gets that, because as your hair gets longer, it's just more, it's harder to wash it. I was just found luck in just grabbing like an eyedropper and dipping it into apple cider vinegar and then just putting it on my scalp, and that clears that up really quickly. Any other questions?
How important do you think the water that you're cleaning your hair with is, and how important do you think your actual nutrition is to your health? Because I've noticed like when my hair is like not looking too good, my nutrition is like crap, right? And I've also noticed when we were living in the mountains, my curls popped way more than they do down here in the city.
I think that the water that you're washing your skin and hair with is extremely important. So I've had a shower filter for many years, and like, I don't know, 13 years, let's say. So I I think that a shower filter might be even more important than you get. So let me rephrase this. You actually get exposed more to the chemicals in the water by taking a hot shower in unfiltered water than you do by drinking that same water. When you drink it, the the your stomach is a filter. Like you actually have filters. It's on the external of your body. It's external of your body, and then your body does have some intelligence of what it's going to let through. Some, obviously, a lot of it gets through. But when you're breathing in steam in the shower with the same chemicals in it, it's going into your lungs, and your lungs' job is to exchange what comes into the lungs. It exchanges it directly into the bloodstream. And so unfiltered showers are very dangerous because we're just inhaling, especially if it's a hot shower, you're inhaling that steam straight into your lungs. What are the effects of this? I mean, people might not feel it, right? But things like poor skin, poor hair probably are going to be affected by it. Things like problems with your brain, brittle joints, those things could add up after a while. And then back to your health question. Yeah, I don't really know what it's like to not eat healthy. That's another identity that I'm like, should I start eating crappy on purpose? But I haven't been able to bring myself to that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there are some supplements that you can take. One is called Hushu Wu. I always want to say Hoshu Wu. I think it's Hoshu Wu. And that's that in the language. I'm really bad at this because I forget. But the language, I can't remember if it's like Chinese, Indian, or Japanese, but whatever language that comes from, it means like man with dark hair. And so the herb Hoshiwu is a very good herb to take if you just want long hair. A lot of people take biotin, kind of like the stuff that you buy. I've never taken any of that. I just take natural herbs.
Is having a shower filter for you like a non-negotiable? Is that like if you had to do like a bro kit of like, all right, I want to be like an all natural bro, that's like on top of it as far as like, all right, you're getting good water to drink, you need to be putting good water on your skin or at least filtering it.
Yeah. I mean, shower filter is key. Obviously, don't drink tap water as well. And then you have to start looking at your cleaning products, your laundry detergent especially. And then well, maybe that comes after all your condiments. I mean, the organic food, but then a lot of people forget about like natural or organic butter, grass fed. Like you want to start upgrading everything, like even things like butter and ketchup. Like all of those things can go from like Heinz ketchup to organic, you know, natural sugar or sugar-free ketchup. Sugar-free ketchup doesn't really exist, but you know what I mean? You can start upgrading all of the things that you normally don't think about when it comes to food. It's like all the stuff that we put on top of the food and then go into cleaning products, even like dish soap. And there's no reason to wash your dishes with acid because then you're going to be eating that acid. Also, stuff that you clean your floors with, you need to realize that you're going outside and grounding to get the electrical charge of the earth, but there's also just like in the lungs, there is your skin on the soles of your feet are permeable because it interacts with the environment, it interacts with the microorganisms in the soil. And so your cleaning products that you use on your floor, if you're then just walking around barefoot on your floor all day, now you're soaking in whatever sort of bleach or toxic chemicals you're putting on there. And we just really don't need to be cleaning that much. Just take off your shoes when you walk in and you pretty much handle most of how the floor would get dirty.
You mentioned that you went on kind of like a more of a plant-based when you kind of got away from your athletic identity, and I know you have a pretty solid kind of supplementation with superfoods and stuff, and you mentioned you really don't ever eat unhealthy. And I also remember even back in the day, long before there was the Liver King, you were eating organ meat and talking about that. So what does your kind of nutrition protocol look like these days?
So currently I'm eating animals, and I would say I'm eating still a lot of organs, not so much vegetables. Like I would say I'm a little lower on the vegetables. I do have my, the superfoods with Purium. And so just to give a context, like Purium's a superfood company. It's a multi-level marketing company. I'm one of the leaders in the company. I'm on the board of the company, I'm friends with the owners. And we've been able to set up an organization where we sell superfoods and we recruit people to help them sell superfoods. And it's a whole leadership development program, essentially, with the compensation plan and the product that we sell. And we learn sales and speaking and presentation. The product that we sell are superfoods, and the superfoods are amazing. They're guaranteed to guaranteed money back to transform people's lives. And so with Purium, one of our main products is a green shake, essentially, and it's powdered at room temperature. The wheatgrass is like growing on dried lake bed next to a volcano, hundreds of miles from any non-organic farm at 6,000 feet elevation. It's, you know, the air is tested, the water is tested. So for my vegetable content, I'm mostly relying on our green shake. And so then that makes me not motivated to eat so much vegetables during the day. And then also there's like the dangers of eating vegetables, right? Like the oxalates. And so our shake is oxalate free. So that's kind of like where I get my vegetables. And then I'm eating animal products and then fruit. That's mostly my diet is animal products, purium for the vegetables and herbs and stuff, and then fruit. And I've been vegan 3 different times in my life for over a year each time. And I want to say that I don't know what the best diet for a human being is from a physical standpoint and or a spiritual standpoint. I've looked into a lot of things, and it's getting to the point where, just like when Jimmy asked me about the hair, and I was like, I don't really have a shampoo to recommend. It's the same thing with diet. I try not to get into the conversation of what I recommend other people do, because I really don't know. Like, I'm at the place where I like have no idea what's best. Like, there's arguments for and against everything.
Do you have a certain time window or frame that you eat, or do you eat whenever?
Even that is like even that is unclear to me, because I do really well if I don't eat in the morning. And I kind of do like more of an intermittent fasting thing. I do really well on that. But that, if you look into like kidney issues, like one of the things that causes that is like not eating in the morning or eating too far at in the afternoon, like too far towards the night. And I feel like I start getting into the danger zones of my organs by just shoveling a bunch of stuff in my mouth during this small window, as opposed to doing what's called food combining, which is where you actually try and separate everything so that your body can just digest fruit, and then just digest animals, and then just digest carbohydrates, right? As opposed to like just shoveling them all in, and in like in a 6-hour window, your body has to like decipher how to break it all down and then bring it into your body. So it's again, it's like I don't know even what's best for the timing thing, because it's kind of impossible to do food combining if you're doing intermittent fasting. And then it's like not eating fruit before bed. But like that's sometimes what I want. So so I do it. And I just don't know. And I don't think I'm motivated too much to know. I think that when I was really into CrossFit, I paid a lot of attention to diet, and I feel like I was at the cutting edge of what we as, you know, a human species knew about food, and it allowed me to get the most performance out of myself that I needed. And right now, as I'm getting older, like I just don't really care that much to pay that much attention to my food choices or to learn about what's the best, because it seems like everything just gets flip-flopped back and forth anyways.
When's the last time you've had In-N-Out?
So I don't do fast food.
Okay.
The last time I actually know when it was, I remember the night. It was 2011, but even then, or maybe 2010, but even then, it would already been several years. I only did it then because of a girl that I was kind of chasing. She wanted to go there. That's why I remember the last time. So yeah, I don't do fast food. I don't do junk. Like I don't eat Snickers bars ever. I don't have Budweiser beers. Like most of the things that are normal in American society, I don't do, like in terms of like food choices. Our food bill is really expensive every month. It's kind of ridiculous. So that is something that we're passionate about, is eating high quality stuff.
Are you strictly shopping on Erewhon?
Pretty much, but there's sometimes you go to a farmer's market, but Air One is primary. Yeah.
For the folks that have no idea what that is, what is that like, and how does it just blow Whole Foods out of the water?
I mean, I can't even go to Whole Foods. Whole Foods looks like what Trader Joe's used to look like when I was going to Whole Foods. And I mean, it might sound like snobby or whatever to say that, but like I'm just in the food, right? Like guy that's in the cars, you know, for him, a Ferrari looks better, feels better, is better than a Toyota. And so like a car guy is going to have no problem saying that. For me, I like food is really important. It's the number one, it's not the only reason, but it's the primary reason why I even wanted to start making money. It's the primary reason why I stopped. Like, I never really was a full-time employee ever in my life, but when I saw how much organic food was when I was like 17, 18 years old, I had a desire. And I remember going into Whole Foods and not being able to afford it. I remember going into Whole Foods and thinking like, wow, a rotisserie chicken is like $11 here and it's like $6 at Kroger in Michigan. It's kind of like Ralph's on the West Coast. And I just remember thinking like, that's incredible how expensive this store is. And I just remember thinking, I want to be able to have enough money where I never have to think about the price of my food. And so my entire foundation of money rests like that's the last thing that I'm going to compromise. I will be homeless, and I have been homeless before, still eating at Air One. Like I will get rid of everything before I have to compromise, or I'll find a solution so that I can get the best quality food. And Air One just happens to be in LA. It's an amazing place. They have the top of everything, you know, $25 bottles of water type stuff. Not because it's like there's wealthy grocery stores here that everything is just overpriced because it comes from France or something, right? It's like you got almonds from the other side of the world, but they're not. It's expensive because of that, the designer aspect of it. But Air One is just the best quality stuff that you can get in every single aspect, you know. And so you might have like 4 strips of mangoes for $11 because they're like the most pristine dried mangoes ever that are dried in like sunlight as opposed to like heated in an oven. And so you can get the top shelf of everything at Air One without sounding like a commercial. I just love it. I love that everything there is under strict quality standards so that you know that nothing shady is going on with the food. And I know the guy that's in charge of like bringing the food in, and I know his values. And so it's just an amazing place. It's getting really expensive though, almost to the point where it's like a little abrasive to go in there. When you're looking at strawberries for $22 for like just one of those normal 1 pound clamshell things, it kind of makes you think like, is it really necessary for me to be here? Maybe I could, yeah. So that could be analyzed too. It's just so convenient to get the best though, and that's what I value now.
Or do you do any homesteading? Have you thought of it?
Back, no, I haven't. Like we've had places to have even just a little garden, like even right here, we've got flats, like we're kind of like there's kind of like a mountainscape on our backyard, and there's flats that we could have stuff there. It's just not interesting to me to spend time on. So that's why. And even our Laguna Beach house had a little garden that was already set up, and we just never did anything. I think that right now I'm consumed with producing content, editing the content, kind of being on my computer and my phone so much that I've gotten away from loving working with the earth. not because I don't love it, but it's just not a priority.
Talking about creating content right now, is that kind of your main like stoking your bliss is like creating content and doing the Purium stuff?
The way that you asked that question was really good.
Well, I have a follow up to it, so I'm sorry. I'm
So
sorry for the
quickly to
slip.
answer that, I would say over the last 4-ish years, yeah, it was producing content monetized with Purium, right? Purium allowed me to produce content because I could monetize it by selling people the products in the DMs. And anyone who is a professional content creator has to monetize it, right? Whether it's selling their products or selling other people's products. And so I was not really focusing on selling my own product because I had Purium. But recently I just launched um, a program called Skillful Psyche. And I'm really passionate about mindset and psychology and consciousness, which is what I produce all my content for. So I've amassed this audience. Right now, I think I'm 120, 121,000 followers on Instagram, 100 and something on TikTok. I started on YouTube just like a couple of months ago. I have like 16.5 on there. So I've amassed this audience that's following me for psychology and consciousness, and they're demanding this content. Purium is amazing. I can help people out that, raise their hand and say they have diet issues or bloating problems or lack of energy or skin issues or whatever. I can help them with that. But most of the people aren't following me for that. So I was getting messages, do you do private coaching? No, I don't. I coach people in my Purium business, but I don't coach just regular people. And a lot of people are asking, like, what else do you have? What services do you offer in the realm of psychology? And I did go to school for psychology. I love it. And I've never stopped studying it for, since I graduated college in 2006. So I just released Skillful Psyche, which is like kind of like CrossFit, but with psychological exercises that, a push-up is simple, right? It's a simple thing. It only works. You only get the benefit of adaptation if you do them, right? And so most of the mindfulness techniques or abilities, I should say, the most abilities from our psyche that we would like to have to make our life experience harmonious, we can practice with simple exercises. It's just a question of doing them. It's not knowing. We can know how to do a push-up, but not ever do it. It's not going to make any impact. So a lot of people are walking around knowing what they would like their mind, like knowing how they would like their mind to operate, but they're not practicing the skills enough so that when actual life happens, they're responding appropriately. So there hasn't actually been any adaptation to mindset within people that are just kind of learning it. And so I just make it easy for people to learn. And then also when we talk about the subconscious, our subconscious is really picky. It doesn't just get reprogrammed because you want it to get reprogrammed. There's a method that we have to bring our brainwave frequencies down to a theta state, which is where we were when we were children, where the programs were being written. We have to bring ourselves back down to that super relaxed, almost meditative state before we start doing these psychological reprogramming drills so that the programs stick within our psyche, and then we can actually actively run them subconsciously, not because we're trying to run them, but because we switch something at a subconscious level so that it gets brought up to the surface and ran without us even having to think about it. So that's kind of like what's fueling my passion right now, because I've always been into the human condition, the human experience. And that's what I've been posting on Instagram about. But now I've actually got a product that I'm working on. And I just released it a couple of weeks ago. So it's not even like I haven't even done any serious marketing on it. But that's what I'm working out all the kinks on right now. I do have members in there right now, kind of like what's it called? Like the early adapters.
Right on. Is that through YouTube like subscription, or is that like a paywall thing that you got going on?
There's a paywall to it. And I use Mighty Networks, which is a community building platform. So there is a paywall. Right now, the price is $34 because it's a Fibonacci number.
The reason I asked that question was it was a loaded barrel. The follow up to it was, what does your rituals or your nutrition look like when you're in? Does it look different from when you're producing stuff, or from when you're coaching, or from when you're raw earth in the woods? Like when you're creating, are you eating more meat, or are you eating more stuff like that, opposed to when you're not?
Are you guys married?
No.
All right. So one of the benefits of having a wife is that you have a teammate. And it took me a long time to realize how that can be extremely beneficial, especially in times like what you're asking about. I've been up in this office all day, and I don't want to make it seem like Seema is serving me. And she actually provides quite a bit. She's just as strong as I am on the financial front of what she provides a relationship. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's necessary, but just to give her respect, she's not just a housewife. But she has made me like 4 or 5 drinks. Like, this is some tea. I don't even know what it is, but she just gave it to me before. She's made me, I actually made breakfast, but then she just made dinner. And so I ate that right before the show. So my nutrition doesn't really suffer ever because I'm with a woman who is passionate about food and preparing food and cooking. It's like the perfect match because I'm passionate about eating. So I'm, let's say, blessed, or maybe I designed this consciously, but I have a life where my food's kind of like, my food situation is really, really good, mostly because of her, Seema. So, but just to answer like what it would be like if it wasn't with her, I would just not eat. So like I can just go without eating, and I think that that's also why I lost a lot of muscle, is because I just kind of just quit eating. I will eat a lot if I'm bored, but if I get busy, I just kind of quit eating, and I'm just like analyzing and working. So I never really get sloppy with my diet. I think people get sloppy. I don't know. I mean, I don't drink alcohol or use cannabis, but I think that both of those things, if they're still kind of within the realm of your life, it's really easy to be unmotivated to really like grasp onto proper nutrition, because if you're high on cannabis, you're hungry, and that, being healthy while you're in that zone isn't important. And then the alcohol is also just like not the best for you. And so your body just already knows that it's getting some sort of garbage inside of you, that you're just not motivated to do more because you're already kind of like, there's a hole in the boat. It just doesn't want to, you're just leaking quality every time you're consuming alcohol. So then there's no reason to go that extra 10% the rest of your day, because you're going to be sabotaging it anyways. It's the sabotage thing that makes things worse. It's the same thing with like money. If you have no money in the bank, you don't really respect money. But the moment that you get even just like $10,000 in the bank, you realize like money's of value. Maybe I don't need this $200 pair of shoes anymore. because having 10,200, you actually see the benefit. But if you're like negative 1,000 to 500, if that's your window, 100 here or there, like it doesn't even matter because it's kind of all worthless anyways. So diet works the same way. I don't know if that was a good example, but for me, that's how I look at it. Like there's things like if you don't care about it 100%, then you're not going to care about it 100%. So it's when you care about it 100% that you actually start caring about it.
You mentioned there that you're able to go long periods of time without eating. Was that always something, or did that happen after you started your sun practice?
Breath work and sun. Yeah. Especially breath work. The sun, yes. But if we're talking about actually getting prana in the body, breath work is the most nutritious. Sun gazing made some profound impacts in my life. And I think that people can sense it. Like somebody's done Reiki on me. Like I knocked her, like she fell backwards because she said I had so much light coming out of the top of my head. So I feel like it's definitely felt. But in terms of the eating, breath work, and I also think breath work and Kundalini yoga or Kriya yoga made it so that cannabis was completely unappealing to me. So I didn't use it until I was 30, and then I used it probably for 3, 4, 5 years. And I loved it. Like it made me a superhuman when I was on it. Like it enhances my vision, it enhances my hearing, it enhances just everything. I'm even physically more capable with cannabis, micro or macro. And once I started getting into Kundalini yoga, which I'm a teacher in Kundalini yoga, cannabis felt like I was coming down from the highs that I would feel after doing kriyas, which included a lot of breath work and movement. So yeah, I think it's the breath work that makes me not as hungry.
You had mentioned saying that, you know, the sun kind of, the Reiki lady had so all the light coming out of the back of your head and people could see the change in you. And we were talking about nutrition before and kind of not knowing like what's right, what's wrong, and it's different for everybody. How important though do you think like our light diet is? Like, you know, I got my cool glasses on right now. Like, how important do you think that is when you're indoors and stuff like that, and people don't realize that their blood sugar's getting raised and how much extra weight and stress they're carrying because of the light they're taking in?
So I was wondering if I would look weird if I showed up to the show with blue blockers on as well.
Bro, I wear these everywhere, man.
So for me, I mean, just with the blue blocker thing, if I'm looking at a screen until I go to sleep, I wake up in the morning and my eyes hurt. And it might not be the case if you're like 30 years old or 25 years old, but like as you get older, your eyes are going to start being strained so much, and it's just not really that good. And what I know about light is that there's a spectrum, and there's a spectrum of light coming off of the sun that is perfectly harmonized for us because we're from this planet. This planet was birthed from the sun. All life on this planet is because of the light on the sun. And that spectrum does change as the sun goes through the solar system. Let's just say there's a solar system, the way that we're taught. But as it goes through whatever it's going through, the spectrum does adjust and we adjust. That's kind of like how our consciousness is tuned. It's tuned to the light of the sun. If you go to other stars have different types of light shining off it. They're different colors. If there's civilizations of advanced beings or not even advanced, just any life around that star, they're going to be perfectly tuned to the light of that star, right? So I feel that light is just as important as like food, because you mentioned light diet, right? So I think that light of the sun is just as important as food, the water that we're drinking, the air that we're breathing. Like if we just all of a sudden went and just got into a chamber that had a different measurement or frequency or what's the word I'm looking for? A different mixture of the gases in the air, we wouldn't be able to breathe. We wouldn't be able to live. And light is the same thing. We are taking in light. Our body is making decisions and it's making calibrations based on the light of the sun. And you can see it if you are on a farm, you know that the animals start mating season because of the changing light. And you also see the animals go out, like the birds are all flying at the end of the day because they're all sun gazing. Birds go out at the end of the day when the sun's setting. If you guys go watch the sunset, you're going to notice tons of birds, but they're not there all day long. They're getting the sun in their eyes in the morning and at sunset. So to bring it all in, if you're indoors consuming artificial light like I am right now, I literally have a ring light right in front of me, and there's like two studio lights over here. And I know and I can feel when I turn these things on, because I'm doing this, I turn these things on, I can feel that I'm making a compromise. And I can actually feel it doesn't feel like pain, but it feels like stress. It feels like stress all around me. In our downstairs, we haven't changed out. There's tons of lights in our house that were just here, and we have to change them all out because they're like fluorescent. We need to get them more to the natural spectrum. All of this stuff is like the equivalent of fast food. I call it fast food light, because that very specific spectrum that comes off of our sun is different in these. They're missing. These things are just made for seeing. So they're missing a large spectrum of light. And my body right now is trying to read the environment based off of this fake fast food light. And really, it shouldn't be bathed in this light, right? My skin ideally would be covered. I would have blue blockers on to mitigate a little bit of what's going on with the light. But again, there's compromises that I'm willing to take. So I do think it's really important. Practicality though, like what people are actually willing to do, I think the easiest thing is like put on blue blockers at some point, especially like when you start turning off the lights. And if you're just going to be staring at your phone, there's no reason to be staring at your phone in bed seconds before you're going to close your eyes to try and sleep. You can put on blue blockers, but even then, I'm not sure if it's blocking everything out, because that's also blocking a part of the spectrum of the phone and then just getting the orange stuff into your eyes.
So with that being said, you're constantly creating, constantly coaching and doing stuff with the brand. Do you take a break? Like, do you take almost like a light artificial or fast food light fast, like a day a week or at certain times?
That's a good question. So what I try to do, I in my old house is the same thing, and in every house I have a table outside, and that's where I try to do the majority of my work from. And what I notice is that even when it starts like sun, if I in the Laguna house, the table would be facing the sun set. And even during the middle of the day, if I'm facing the sun, I feel that most of the sun is coming into my eyes, that the computer screen has no impact on me. So most every single day I go outside. When we take vacations or, do we do time off? Yeah, probably more than normal. Right now, not so much, but there's a lot of off time that we have over the last few years. I've been pretty busy the last few weeks, but the last few years has been kind of like embarrassingly little work from us. But we're working a lot now.
Are you at a point where and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, you're at a point now where you make money while you're sleeping?
Yeah, but I'm at the top, not the top, I shouldn't say that. I'm at a point where I realize that I'm at a boundary that I haven't broken through, and I realize that I don't even have the knowledge of what's beyond it. And it's more of what you were talking about. It's having, I still am operating a lot with earned income. Like Purion pays, we set up an organization, it is residual, but I still need to manage it. And I consider that earned income. It's not exactly passive. And the goal is to get my passive income more than my earned income. Like that's the next goal. And I don't really have anything set up that's passive. We were beginning to, we had a business deal go south a couple years ago. So it's not like I haven't stepped into it, but I haven't stepped into, that's the next goal, is to continue growing my earned income, like have stuff set up, products online still going, but have businesses and or investments going that require very little of my time, and being able to grow that to be more than my earned income is the goal, because that seems to be the next stage of evolution financially.
And how's the new venture going? I know it kind of kicked off right at the new year. How's that going? Do you, with this stuff that you're doing, does it incorporate like the breath work and the Kriya as well?
Very little. I mean, I do have a website called Kriya of the Week. That's all just Kriyas. It's a very short Kriya, like a 15-minute Kriya every single week, a new one that gets released. One of my goals is, because I have like 100 and I've got all this content that I'm producing for these programs, and I can start turning these things into products that people can purchase. And then that's just going to be a business that lives online forever. So I can start bundling my Kriyas and selling them as individual products. With a Skillful Psyche program, it works. People can either take the live class where we actually go an hour. It's like 5 to 10 minutes of meditative. I got to get people's brains stopping the rat race and the grocery list and I need to do this, I need to get them out of that into theta. So there's like 5 to 10 minutes of getting them into the correct mind state, and then it's mostly psychological exercises. And the good thing about it is that I love psychology and mindset and consciousness and emotions and helping people process that. And because I'm doing this, I feel like I did when I owned my CrossFit gyms, when I loved working out and I loved figuring out the best way to do a handstand push-up and the best way to do a muscle up. I have a program where people are going through exercises. In order to prepare myself for the class, I need to do research. I'm reading studies. I'm reading abstracts of studies. Like today I didn't read studies, but I read the abstracts of 10 different studies. So that I had some context to bring to why we're doing this exercise. And for me, that's fulfilling and that's important. And I feel like now I'm not, for me personally, the gratification I get out of it is that I don't just feel like I'm producing content just because I thought about it. Like I've always been researching it, but content, now I'm like actually coaching and teaching people about what I'm producing content as. And I feel like I will be more helpful to people because I now have a reason to learn about the actual subject that I'm producing content on in a systematic way. Like I'm required to learn about certain topics so that I can teach it. And then that's just going to make me a better teacher for producing content. Whereas before it was kind of just like a hobby. And then I was producing content about what I was interested in, but I wasn't working in the field.
And so if you can't attend the live sessions, are they like if someone wanted, if their schedule doesn't line up, can they still participate in
Yeah.
this and be involved?
Yeah, and you know, I was really excited about the live sessions. I don't even know if I'm like, that's kind of just like, if you can, we're taping them live at these times, and then they're available for a month. So the last months of classes, we do 2 a week. The last months are available, and then they will be expired and not available. And that's to incentivize my members to actually do them while they're available. Because if I just make them available forever, it'd be less incentive to practice them. And so I'm that's how it's set up for now. And there's simple stuff. Like today we talked about the difference between being a pessimist and an optimist within your own mind. And we did journaling on the last week. We had questions to really bring out of you how you've been pessimistic in the last week. And before we get into this, I lecture about why it's necessary to be pessimistic. It's protecting you, right? Your negative mind is telling you not to cross the street because you might get hit by a car. And your optimistic mind is telling you to cross the street because there's a reward on the other side. But your negative mind will not look at the positive because our brain is actually biased to protect us and to stay alive. So if you're offsetted towards pessimism, you're going to completely ignore the optimistic side of all of the events in your life. Whereas optimists are proven to attain growth out of even negative situations because they're more balanced. They see the positive, but our brain isn't biased to keep us happy. Our brain is biased to keep us alive. So even if we are personally optimistic and personally positive, we're still going to notice a significant part of the negative. The reverse isn't true. When you're negatively focused, you barely notice any of the positive. And that can cause people to be paralyzed. You can just be sitting on one side of the road, not wanting to cross because you don't want to get hit and you don't care what's on the other side, right? And that's where a lot of people are stuck. So we did exercises to just reveal how we're being a pessimist, how we're being an optimist in the last week of our life, and you discover things about yourself. And I personally today in this exercise, I did it twice because we have 2 classes a day of the same exact class. That's another thing that I have to do, but also I'm blessed to do. I teach the same class twice, which means that I get to do the drill twice and I also get to teach it twice. So I get better at saying what I need to say and retaining the information. It's double the work. I really only need to do it once, but I've chosen to do it twice so that I get more practice. But what I learned is that I'm really good at being neutral. And I learned probably when I was 3 years old, like as I was writing down like how I was being a pessimist in the last week, I realized that I've been ignoring a lot of things that aren't correct. And like that's not good to always just be positive and you're just going to cross the street and get hit. And when you get hit, you're going to be like, well, everything's fine. And you don't learn. Next time you get across the street, you're going to get hit again. There's a lot of things in my life that are happening that I could be paying more attention to. There's some things that when I'm writing it down, I'm realizing like, oh, wow, there are some things that could be causing anxiety, even though I'm just not feeling the anxiety. It doesn't mean these things aren't happening. And then when I was writing down the optimistic things, I realized I'm the same way with them. There's a lot of good things, like very good things that have happened in the last week that I already forgot about. I already moved on with, and I didn't really notice. And I realized through doing the exercise that I started playing hockey when I was 3. And I think I learned that win or loss, it doesn't really matter. There's going to be a game tomorrow. And I think that neutral state of being I've been able to capitalize on that a lot. But there's also a lot of life that is kind of like gray to me. And if I actually let myself feel a little bit more, life would be a little bit more colored in. anyways, that's just kind of my reflection on what I learned today out of our drill, is that like I'm actually dulling my pessimist and my optimist. And so I just discover a little bit more about myself. And we also share with each other in the live classes. And the not live, if you're just watching recording, you don't really share, but that's another thing about being in the live classes, you share with the small group, like I just did with you. So interesting stuff. I love psychology. I went to school for, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I just didn't like what working in the field looked like until I was like a doctorate. And I also didn't want to stay in school. So I, halfway through my psychology degree, I switched, or I added an exercise science minor. And so I have a degree, a bachelor's in psych, a minor in exercise science, and I went and opened the gym because I realized I couldn't work in the psychology field. But now this is like, I've been essentially helping people with their psychology, mindset, consciousness since I graduated from college as it is. And I've been studying and researching and working practically with the aspects of psychology. So I'm glad to be doing this because I'm essentially doing what I wanted to do. The whole reason why I went to college for psychology is because I wanted to work with people with their mind. And so I'm doing that specifically.
Living the dream, literally.
Well, I think it's pretty epic. You have created this, I don't even know what to call it, but your life is you're teaching and learning at the same time, and constantly like learning and teaching, whether it be with the CrossFit, being a competitor and coaching, whether it be, picking up all the natural life, how to harness the earth and teaching other people. You've been doing the psychology aspect of it. I just hope that the mainstream finds you, because the mainstream needs Rob Earth. The Airey bros know about you. The CrossFitters know about you. I just hope that the masses can get the message. So before we get into rapid fire, I have one super random question for you. So feel free to laugh at me about this one. But you mentioned different planets, different star systems. Have you ever had a past life regression?
Yeah, I have, but I just got my slingshot, my car with no roof, and my feet. Anyways, the point is that I had some pain on the back, the skin of my feet. So I was laying down during this like 4 or 5 hour past life regression. All I could feel was like the pain of my feet because my skin was scraping the bottom of the car. And so it didn't really work that much.
I was just curious if if you're like a starseed from the plebeian planet or Syrian or anything like that, because I've listened to enough of podcasts with you to pick up on things. I know with you too, everything you say is like layered in context, and I feel like the more I've been practicing some stuff, I can go back and listen to some of your stuff and pick up on things. So I was just curious if you have any knowledge of past lives or anything.
So for me, I think, I mean, I've pondered, like, I don't really have access to like other dimensions. A lot of other people do, but for me, I haven't. I think it might have something to do with like all the concussions that I experienced and maybe the fluorinated water that I drank most of my life. But I mean, I get signs within reality, and I have a certain knowing about the possibility of these other dimensions existing, but I don't actually have that many experiences. I do have some crazy experiences having to do with multiple dimensions, but for the most part, I don't just close my eyes and talk to my guides, like it seems like other people do. I also don't have any awareness of lifetimes in the past. However, I feel that all of that makes sense of like why we're here. But I've been told things, I've been told, but many different things, right? You're a Lyran, you're a Palladian, like it's all of this, you're a Lumerian, like, but I don't actually have access. I don't think, I think it's kind of like my neutral mindset. I've never really desired to see through the veil. What's interesting enough for me is to just to know about it. I've never really wanted to experience it. So I don't know.
That makes me feel good, because I kind of, when like you said, there's people who close their eyes and they're channeling. We've talked to people who channel, and I'm like, why can't I tap into that? I feel like I'm doing all the right things, but like you, I feel like I get a lot of signs from reality, a lot of synchronicities in other ways too. So it's good to hear that someone like you is kind of on that same level.
Dude, the Tartaria stuff is insane.
I was just gonna ask you about that.
What are your
Well,
thoughts?
I mean, unless these people are just like finding fake photos and stuff of the past, it's just wild. I mean, you can't really look into that stuff without also the flat earth thing coming up as well. And there's a dome and like I think somehow there's all of these different versions of reality happening. Somehow, I don't know how to explain it, but there's like this is all a matrix, right? So none of this is actually real. And that also can be like the heaven and hell and earth, like kind of like the religious phenomenon. That also suggests that this is all just kind of like practice to see if you're good enough to get into heaven, right? Which means that this is kind of just a matrix as well. And then there's like the whole extraterrestrial, and this is just an owned planet, and we're all just an experiment from many different types of extraterrestrials. And then it's like, okay, that could be looked at as this is just a playground. Could it be a digital playground? Could it be something like digital that I don't even know? I can't even comprehend yet. Um, is it fake? Is it real? I don't know, but I think it can be all of it, right? Flat Earth, round Earth, lies, truthfulness, Illuminati controls everything, or we're just, a random occurrence of evolution over a 6 billion year period. It seems to me like at least I desire, or I'm trying to link them all together. Like, how can all of this be fact, even though they all contradict each other? I feel like there could be a webbing of truth through them all somehow. And I don't know if I should spend my entire life like obsessing over it. So I don't, but I am interested in the Tartaria stuff because you just see their technology was different, and you obviously see there's still buildings that exist today that we don't even really know why they're shaped the way that they are. And yeah, so it's all interesting. Like there's a civilization not too long ago that's a little bit more advanced in certain degrees than we are right now, and then it just gets wiped out. It just, I just don't think that what we're taught in school is how it is. And why would it be? We didn't teach the slaves picking cotton, if that's even real. Like that's a whole other thing. Like the slavery thing is like there's like the whole thing that like what we consider African Americans are actually Native Americans, right? Um, and the whole slave thing was just made up to make that whole culture feel like dumb idiots that got kidnapped and brought here, when really this is their land, and they were more powerful than the European settlers. So again, man, the more I learn about all this, the less I can comprehend, and the less I need to know the answer. and the less I care to argue about people. I'm always just trying to find out what their perspective is, and um just integrate, and not even knowing if what I'm integrating is true or not.
Have you read anything any sort of literature or any sort of research that's come across your plate that has kind of stood out to you, that's kind of just
No,
blown your mind?
no, I just follow this guy, the Improbable Dreamer, on Instagram. I don't know if you guys follow him, but he's just constantly posting pictures. So his thing is he posts his pictures and videos. And that's what I mean. Like the stuff that he posts is kind of like, all right. I mean, they find a pinky finger that's like the size of my couch, like that human had to be huge. And then just coordinating all of that with all the other sort of truth, things that I've known about, it all makes sense. Like, I mean, giants roaming the earth it comes up when you start looking at ancient sites. So, and the extraterrestrial thing as well, the ancient builder race were giants. They're like 30 stories tall or something like that. So it all just kind of fits in to everything else that I know really nicely. But there is still a sliver of me that's like, are these just a bunch of geeks making stuff up based on like the video games that they played when they were kids? Like that's still a possibility. So I don't want to be too invested into what's going on, because it also doesn't help my daily life to a degree. And then also it does help my daily life, because then I'm like, well, I know what's really going on behind the scenes, and it's all just it's a weird life here.
Yeah. With all that being said, in terms of like, does it make a difference to your life or how busy you are and stuff? Do you pay attention to things like the Liver King, Andrew Tate, Jake and Logan Paul, stuff like that, or does that not even come across your radar?
So those three guys I have been paying a little bit attention to, but I don't spend too much time. Like I've never watched a Logan Paul episode, but like they pop up on my feed, and I obviously watch them. So then Instagram and YouTube feeds me more of it. And I would say those three guys, uh, except for Logan Paul, not so much, but Andrew Tate a lot, and Liver King a lot. So I do know a bit about them. Did you have any specific direction I should go with that?
I was just curious. Like, I know you're super busy, and you seem like you're like, you've got
So
all you've
like
got.
the Liver King is like, I mean, we all know that he even says that it's a character, right? The way that he refers to the Liver King character, it's a character. And nobody, the steroid thing, I think that maybe that whole thing was also designed. Even him coming out, I feel like could have been designed as well. The way that he came out with it was beautiful. And even his buddy, Carnivore MD, Paul, whatever his actual last name is, how he sort of spoke against Liver King in the one day that Liver King gave him space to do that was beautiful. The whole thing was just coordinated very professionally, of how he could admit that he was on illegal performance enhancing drugs. I don't know if they're legal, but so do I think that what they're saying is true? I mean, it's kind of hard to, with Liver King, nobody really eats liver like he does raw. And so he convinces an entire population that you should be eating a certain way, because he doesn't look like a normal human. And so you're like, no, that's steroids. But then he's saying, I'm not on steroids, but I'm doing this other stuff. And since nobody normally eats raw testicles and liver, you're like, okay, well, maybe that is the reason why he looks the way that he is. So it's kind of hard to believe his messaging. It's just, he was an interesting case study, when he was lying to people. Now, obviously, I love organs. I think it's amazing. I'm not sure you should just be eating them in the quantity that he is. And we don't even know if he is. It might just all be a stunt. He might eat one, they have a whole meal pulled out on his dinner table, and they might just be eating one little piece and then wrapping it all up and having another, hot, a different meal for dinner than what he's showing everybody. But I follow him because of the attention that he gets. And I also follow Joe Rogan for the same reason. I don't ever watch a Joe Rogan podcast, but I respect their craft. I think there's something to learn with how Liver King designed a character, steroids or not, and blew it up on social media and used that and Carnivore MD to build two separate brands to essentially sell the same product to people. And you got Carnivore MD as like the science guy, and you got Liver King to like be promoted to all the dudes out there that are kind of missing the alphaness. And you've got these characters that are fueling sales of products.
Are they the same company? So we just said?
They're business partners.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, that's
Oh, yeah.
wild. That is wild.
That what they're doing is there's a version of that that's illegal. Like if you set up two companies that are selling the same exact products and you're the single owner that set up two companies, and then the public thinks that these two companies are sort of competitors, they can kind of overly inflate their prices with the illusion that they're competitors, so that if one goes down, then it's kind of like they trap the market unfairly. So there's two different people though in this circumstance, so they can be business partners and kind of do the same thing, and that's what they did, and I think that's amazing. And Andrew Tate is another person that just came out of nowhere and became this like personality that everybody knows about, and the stuff that he's saying is just like Liver King. It's really interesting, and a lot of people are hating on it. They're saying that it's not practical. And now Andrew's like, I don't know what they're doing with him being arrested. That also just, we don't know what's actually going on behind the scenes. Could be some Illuminati freaking, like a buy-in to the Illuminati to be embarrassed like that on a public scale. We don't know, but the things that Andrew Tate says, the things that I've heard him say, they seem like truth. They seem like experience. It seemed like truths that he learned from his experience. And that's all he's doing, is sharing his experience in a very loud way that has gotten mainstream. So when you guys are like talking about like, I need to go mainstream, I'm watching others do it. And the way that Andrew Tate did it, the way that Liver King did it, it's kind of the similar way that Hey Elliott did it. They're just kind of loud alpha males. Then I also kind of look at Jordan Peterson stuff, because he's also, and this guy Huberman Lab, like these are the more sciencey guys that aren't like loud and trying to like be all alpha. They're more like my speed, but they're doing it at such a high, impressive level. They're more of who I would aspire to align my trajectory towards, like how Huberman Lab and Jordan Peterson are representing themselves. But I definitely think that the Andrew Tates and the Liver Kings are very entertaining, and it's just admirable to watch them and how they work.
I appreciate your insight. I didn't think we were gonna go that deep on it, so I appreciate it, and I like how you've kind of taken it from like a creator's perspective to kind of analyze some of those topics and situations. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You know, the thing I have to say is if you go to Liver King's comments, the way that he responds to people, and again, I don't know if he hired a lawyer that has very good writing skills to respond to people, but the way that Liver King responds to people are like very respectful, very collaborative. He's not argumentative, and it just seems like he's coming from a humble place. And same thing with Andrew Tate. When you see him actually in conversations and interviews, he actually has meaning behind everything that he's saying, even though the stuff that's projected out is like Liver King carrying kettlebells down Rodeo Drive, or Andrew Tate talking about how women should be in the kitchen or whatever. It's like that's what's being projected out. But if you dig deep and look at them both, they actually seem like pretty dynamic humans that have experience that a lot of people can learn from. And I like that.
Well, dude, we could pick your brain all day. we could throw topics at you and get an answer, but super respectful of your time. 4 rapid fire questions. Rob, are you a coffee drinker?
No coffee. I've had like 5 cups in my life, just as an experiment.
You do tea or anything? Anything in the morning or
Yeah.
no?
Yeah, tea. For me, I don't need it to be caffeinated. I do drink a little caffeine, like in kombucha or tea, or we've got a pre-workout with Purium that has very low caffeine. So I'm not adverse to caffeine. It's just the coffee thing is a little bit excessive to me, and it seems like a drug.
Do you ever do nootropics?
Yeah. Yeah, I got into it, but I ordered a bunch, and now it's just something that I just have as like a random supplement around my house. Like I took some before this interview, but in Purium we have some. But I also have tried like some protocols from like other companies that have like a lot of them. Like the whole stack is nootropics, and I didn't really notice that much.
Rod, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of yourself?
It used to be ice baths. I did that for like 7, 8 years. I've kind of been out of practice. But I think ice baths are extremely potent to allow you to push past your boundaries into the place where you actually start to crave the cold when you get there. I think that that's extremely beneficial, but I'm not doing it currently. So, but that would be what I wish my answer would be if I was doing it currently.
Do you have a setup at the house?
Not yet. So I've just been trying to get that going by having a cooler. But now there's these like really nice coolers that are thousands of dollars as opposed to like the $700-800 freezer from Home Depot. So that's been my holdup is I'm like, do I get a nice one or do I get just a freezer? I can't make a decision, so I just haven't gotten one.
Treat yourself.
What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
No, just solfeggio frequencies on the music end.
Do you have any channels or any artists that you
man,
like?
I can't find, like, I wish there was like some easy thing, but a solfeggio frequency you can just download and make your own. So most people are just like, it's just a tone, right? Just it's just a tone that's behind some other rhythm. And I don't really have, like, there's some on Apple Music. It's just like one playlist, and then there's a couple playlists on Spotify, but they're not like that great.
I'll send you some on YouTube. I got some channels I listen to.
Good. Parangi is if I do listen to music, I like his stuff. Podcasts, I just never really done. Audiobooks, I've been reading a lot. I haven't been driving a lot because we moved back to LA and there's like not a reason for us to leave our house. Um, but I'm just scrolling through my audiobook. Paul Selig, you guys, he channels. I just really like all this channeling stuff. I read two business books that I really like. One's called The Aladdin. I mean, these are just recently. The Aladdin Factor is about asking for things, which I feel like I struggle with. And How to Talk to Anyone, which is something that I could learn more about too, is just How to Talk to Anyone by Leo Lowenz. But something that you'll like, this one's called Luminous Life, and it's by Dr. Jacob Lieberman.
Oh, dude, we had him on because of you.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, we've had at least 5 guests on because of you.
So obviously he wrote a book that I read a long time ago called Light Medicine of the Future. And then he just released kind of recently, like I think a year ago, Luminous Life. And yeah, I was gonna recommend that for you for sure.
You mentioned you like channel and stuff. Have you ever looked into any of Dolores Canyon stuff?
Yeah, I'm not like a regular consumer of her content, but her and Abraham Hicks are spot on. I like when they pop up on Instagram, I like both of their I just like them. I like what they're doing. Um yeah, so
If you,
definitely a fan. I
if
think they help out women a lot too.
Yeah.
Seth, not Seth, Bashar. Bashar as well is like a channeler that goes around. I got a session from somebody from Bashar's species, but not Bashar. It's another person that channels a being called Ryok. And my wife actually bought me a session for my birthday with him. And he said some interesting things. I like Bashar better, but if you want a private session with Bashar, I think it's a long waiting period, and Ryok is more available.
so before I ask the last question, I am want to go back to the origins. You grew up as a hockey player. Um, are you a hockey fan still, or did you leave that a long time ago?
No, I never really was a spectator of anything.
Okay.
I barely watched any hockey my whole life too.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know even what's going on in the world of hockey.
Is that the same for CrossFit?
Yeah, it's the same for CrossFit. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. And last but certainly not least, we used to ask people about their favorite conspiracy theory, but that just kind of wore us out. And so now we ask, do you have a guilty pleasure?
So every once in a while, I need to mention this. Every once in a while, I have a kombucha beer. They're organic, but I would say that for most of my life, I haven't been drinking at all any alcohol. But since I would talk so negatively about it in this podcast, I should throw in practicality every once in a while. So like if I'm working a lot, sometimes I just and it's completely a guilty pleasure. It's completely like I want to do something that I normally don't let myself do, but I want to do it now because either I feel like I deserve it or I just feel like I've had a long day. And I would say that's like once every 6 months, maybe even once a year. And I never feel good afterwards. So I think it's getting less often.
Do you have a favorite brand or anything? Or you just,
Um, Not really. I'm not that picky.
yeah,
Um,
cool. Right
Well,
on.
Thank you so much for your time today, sir.
Yeah.
We're going on episode 200, so you've been along with us for the ride. So I appreciate you coming on when we send the Bravo signal your way.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure talking with you. Good seeing you. Congratulations. And yeah, I might be dropping in for your psyche stuff. I'm fascinated, and I think I'm gonna make the leap. I've got some finances now that I can splurge a little bit on some coaching and some self-improvement. So
Amazing. Guys, congrats on staying consistent with this.
thank you.
Thank
I've
you.
thought about having a podcast many times, but never took the step. So, yeah, congrats.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Keep doing you, man. You inspire us, and I know you're inspiring a lot of others. So keep doing your thing.
Sweet.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Later, bud.